All right, let's talk about you ever hear this ridiculous thing that people say? They say the world doesn't owe you a living. I never really thought about that. I used to kind of be one of those people who used to think like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all that. And you know, I even lived my life by those standards until I came to the harsh, ugly truth that it doesn't work. People always project this thing on me. You just don't want to work. Dude, I never minded working. I loved it. I have no problem doing hard labor all day in the Florida sun. I used to get a tan. I'm still in good shape. I the you know one of the reasons I'm in the shape I'm in is because I did so much hard labor. I built muscle that I don't know. It doesn't seem to fade. And it's, you know what it is? It's because I've been consistently using my muscles my whole life, whether I'm working out or doing hard labor. It's just consistency. That's all it takes to be in shape. You just got to work out consistently for years and years and years. And, I've gone stretches of months, probably, when I was first homeless, I didn't work out for like 6 months. And then I got a little break from homelessness. This guy I knew let me stay in this apartment for a week. I did a bunch of maintenance around the place. Watch my previous videos. I probably told the story in my Why I Was Homeless videos. But so I hadn't worked out in 6 months, and now I've got an apartment for a week. And I was like, let me see how many push-ups I could do. I used to do 100 a day before I was homeless. I got on the ground and I did 80 push-ups, and if I really wanted to push myself, I could have done the 100. And I was shocked because while I was homeless, I thought my body, I never even got to see my body because I wasn't able to shower, you know what I mean? So I thought that I had I thought that I had lost all my strength, and so when I worked out, I was completely shocked. I was like, how is it possible I haven't done a single push-up in 6 months that I could still be this fit? And another thing that shocked me is when I did see myself before I went in the shower, I was still pretty ripped, which it's a weird thing when I was homeless. And you also got to realize I was homeless in the winter. So actually, no, it wasn't 6 months. It was probably more like 3, because I was first homeless in November, and this was probably at some point in February when the dude let me stay in the apartment for a week. And so, let me tell you something. It seemed like 100 years. Somebody's texting me. So, I was just, so maybe it wasn't as long as I thought. It was about 3 months. But shockingly, I looked pretty much the same, which I was very happily surprised by that, because while I was homeless, I felt like shit, and I felt like I looked like shit, And it was shocking to me that I was still as strong and fit as I was. But it occurred to me, as the years have gone by, the reason is because I've been consistent. I can take a couple months off, which I don't. I could if I want, and I'd still be, I think, in pretty good shape. Well, I don't eat like a pig. It's not like I eat like some super strict diet. It's just I don't eat a lot, and I also do creatine and protein, which I only recently started doing. I'm not trying to make a video about working out, but my point here is that I liked working because I was getting a tan and I was working out all day, every day, and getting paid to do it. So, and the other thing is I was very content with that schedule, waking up early, going to work, and I was, I was working for one of my friends when I was doing the side, but it was the happiest I've ever been with a job, even though I was getting filthy and doing hard work all day. But that schedule agrees with me, waking up early, doing hard work all day, coming home tired but looking ripped, and getting something good to eat and smoking some herb and just chilling, my nice air conditioned apartment. I would have been, you know, I can't say I would have been content with that for the rest of my life, because I felt like I wasn't really serving a greater purpose, which I feel like I am now, because I can help people learn from my experiences. So I'm actually more content now than I was then. But my point is that the working life never bothered me. And if I ended up with like a family and kids, I would have had no problem working my ass off every day to provide for my family. You know, I would have felt like I was, you know, providing a greater purpose at that point. But so, you know, there's this stupid saying, and, you know, the world doesn't owe you a living. And so I never really thought about it much, but it occurred to me recently. I think Asmongold said it in one of his videos. I watch Asmongold on YouTube sometimes. I think he's entertaining. I agree with probably about 50% of his opinions, but I do find him entertaining. I find him to be a dim-witted moron at other times, but overall, I like Asmongold. I find him entertaining. But when he said this, he was like, the world doesn't owe you a living. He was doing a reaction to a video about why millennials are going off grid. And you know, I'm thinking to myself, I know why they go off grid, because the world is screwing them out of everything. Yeah, I'm off grid too. I get it. But Asmongold seemed to be of the opinion that they just don't want to work or something. Like, oh, you know, this boomer mentality. And I'm not trying to pick on the boomers. I got some boomers that watch me. My parents are boomers. All my aunts and uncles are boomers. I don't hate the boomers, you know. And I don't even blame them. The boomers are just, they're doing what they were raised to do. They're thinking the way they were raised to think. You know, that's a whole different conversation. But, so, for the first time I thought about this saying after I heard Asmongold say it. The world doesn't owe you a living. And I started thinking about it. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it does. The world absolutely owes every one of us a living. Like, what are you saying? That the world has a right to charge me to be here, but I don't have a right to make money? What kind of stupidity is that? And so, like, it's really, that mentality is a symptom of a way bigger problem. And the bigger problem is social engineering and brainwashing. They've got the working class, like, competing to see who can do the hardest work for the least amount. It's like, you know, you got the boomer mentality, like, you know, oh, everyone needs to wake up at the crack of dawn and bust their ass. Half these boomers, you know, if I took them out on a landscaping job when I used to do sod, they'd be carried off on a stretcher. All these people you see on the internet who are always like, oh, you just don't want to work, this and that. If I took them out on half the jobs I've done in my life, I guarantee you they wouldn't be able to do it. You know, that Florida sun, if you're not used to it, it'll hurt you, bro. And on top of that, just doing physical work all day. It's like these people bullshit themselves into thinking, oh, I'm a super worker because I've had a job my whole life. And it's like, really, a lot of them like work in this office, like office space, typing up TPS reports. When all is said and done, they're not doing anything, really. They're not performing any type of service for anyone except for their greedy boss, who's getting rich off of their settling for a salary. I'm not trying to insult people. I just get annoyed when I see this in my comments. People accuse me of not wanting to work. I ain't never had a problem working, dude. Never had a problem with it. Everything just kept blowing up in my face. You know, when I was doing construction, what it came down to was I was being treated like a nobody, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life being treated that way. And what it came down to was, since they flood the country with cheap labor all the time, and they were even doing it back then, and I'm not trying to blame the immigrants, but the result is that for every construction job, there's 10 million people willing to do it for dirt cheap. So I had to be one of the 10 million putting up with all this stupid shit and being screwed over, being paid barely enough to make a living. I couldn't even afford to fix my car. You got to realize, I went from working for my friend with the sod, making thousands of dollars every month, to doing construction where I had no experience. I'm not really working for my friends anymore, to where I'm making hundreds of dollars every month. I went from like rich to poor, but I was thinking to myself, at least I'm learning something, and at least I'm investing in my future, because I'm gonna learn carpentry and a lot of other things about construction. So I should be able to up my worth as time goes on. And what I realized was that my worth was not going up until I started putting a whole lot of money into, tools in a truck and shit. And so that was the only thing. No one cared about the amount of experience I had. They were all only willing to pay either 10 or 15 bucks an hour, and it, the only way there was framers that I knew who had been framing their whole lives, who were working for 15 bucks an hour, which was the same that I was getting paid with way less experience, because I had a truck and tools. So I realized, they don't care. None of us are worth anything, because there's so many of us. Nowadays, it seems to me that the construction, from my personal experience, I've had a lot of people try to hire me for construction over the last few years, and it's people I used to work with back then. But what happened was that whole 2008 thing ran probably 70% of the people out of the construction industry, and as far as I can tell, none of them went back. I certainly didn't. I felt like I got screwed over. And when I came back to Florida, I was looking at jobs just out of curiosity, because I was thinking maybe I'll do construction again. And it was so ridiculous. They're like, all these shit labor jobs, which are fucking shit jobs, they're all like, send your resume and do this and jump through this hoop and jump through that hoop. And I'm thinking to myself, you must not need people that bad, because you want them to jump through all these hoops to come out there and dig ditches for you. I mean, what? I'm not willing to jump through any fucking hoops. You know what I'm saying? Now, even in my prime, when I was doing construction, the only jobs that I would even bother with were the ones where, none of them even asked me for a fucking resume. You know what I mean? Because that's just a stupid extra step that means nothing. What good is a resume when you're going to be digging fucking holes all day? You know what I mean? It's so stupid. But this is the dynamic that they've managed to create with all this brainwashing and social engineering, to where the workers feel like they ain't worth shit, and so they're willing to jump through all these fucking hoops and to get a job that's not even going to pay them enough to live. We've been conditioned to accept all this unacceptable shit, and I believe that stupid saying played a part in it, because people believe, oh, the world doesn't owe me a living. I'll be lucky if I can. Get the fuck out of here. The world does owe you a living. You have every right to make a living. I was thinking to myself on my way here today, someone who makes sandwiches at Subway or whatever, people are like, oh, well, they shouldn't get paid a lot because anyone can do that, this or that. Go to Long Island, New York, and go to a deli and get a sandwich. You're going to get a fucking good sandwich 9 times out of 10. And the person making it is making enough to make a living. And that's why he's making you a good sandwich, because he cares about what he's doing and he's being taken care of. He likes his life. He likes his job. And you're going to get good food in all the delis in Long Island for the most part, I would say. I haven't been to every deli in Long Island, but the people making my sandwiches in New York are not some, no offense, but some pimply-faced kid who hates his job and hates his life and is throwing together a bunch of shit ingredients that are all GMO and modified, and you know what I mean? They've built this whole system of just stupidity and greed, and they've taught us all through social engineering and brainwashing not to use our logic. Like, logic dictates that everyone should be able to make a living. I don't care what they're doing. Somebody's got to do that job. And if you want the job done well and you want the job done right, you should pay them a living wage. So this is why nowadays all service is trash. You go into somewhere to get something to eat. Now, I'm in Florida. I'm not in New York. But most places, especially fast food places, which I don't really eat much for many reasons, but one of the reasons is the people working there fucking hate their job. They don't care if they get the order wrong. Like, how hard is it to read a fucking order and get it right? So you're gonna get some slapped together trash food by people who hate their life and hate their job, and you can't even fucking blame them for it, because they're not being paid right. They're not being compensated. It's like, of course you're gonna have shit service. It's the same with every industry nowadays. I had to get my ATM card replaced because it expires this month and they didn't send me one. And so I go into the bank. About 2 months before my card expired, I was thinking, maybe I should go to the bank and make sure that they're going to send my card, because I have to use my brother's address. So I go in the bank and I'm like, hey, my card expires next month. And they're like, oh, they're just going to automatically send you one. I'm like, are you sure? Because we're getting kind of close. They're like, oh yeah, they'll send it to you. Rest assured. I'm like, okay. And here I am 4 days before the month ends and they still haven't sent the card. So last week I go into the bank and I said, my ATM card is about to expire in 10 days. You said they were going to send one. They didn't send it. And the guy's like, open up your banking app. I'm like, I came here to deal with a person. If I wanted to deal with the app, I wouldn't have came here. And he's like, well, there's not much I can do. I'll show you how to, I didn't want to be a dick to the guy, but I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck are you here for if you're just telling me to go on the fucking app? And so he's like, I can walk you through it. I'm like, okay, let's do that, because I have a feeling. And he's like, oh, you can call this number too. I said, the last time I called that number, I got ran around from one machine to the other for about a half hour. I don't want to sit on the phone talking to answering machines and listening to a flute solo for the next 3 hours. So I came in here. And he's like, all you had to do was press this and that. And I'm like, if I wanted to call, I would have called. If I wanted to use the app, I would use it. I'm here to deal with a person, And so he's like, well, there's nothing I can do except help you with the app. I said, okay, I pull out the app, and he's walking me through the app to order a new card, and it doesn't work. Lo and behold, it didn't work. It wouldn't like register. And he's like, it's supposed to confirm it, but it didn't confirm it, so sit over there and wait for one of our bankers. I'm thinking to myself, well, what the fuck are you? You work at the bank? I'm like, okay. So I sit there and I wait about probably 10 minutes. It wasn't that long a wait. Pretty hot Jamaican chick banker comes up, and she was cute. I'll give her that. But she was another fucking dimwit. So she's like, I'm thinking to myself, these people, like, shouldn't they know more? Or, like, none of them knew what the fuck they were doing. So she comes up, and she tells me to go on the app, and I'm just playing along with it. I know it's not going to work. We just tried that, but so I'm playing along with it. And it doesn't work. And she's like dumbfounded by it. Like, it would basically freeze when I tried to, order the card. And she's completely dumbfounded by it. And so she goes in the back and probably, I don't know what the fuck she did, but she comes back and she's like, oh, you got to confirm your address. So I said, okay. I go on the app, I confirm the address, and then it works. But I'm thinking to myself, like, what are you people even fucking here for? Like, this is the world they're creating, full of inept, clueless, dumb people who don't get paid because they can't do anything anyway. No one knows how to do anything. So we're in a fucking society full of dimwits who nobody can do their job, and you can't blame them because they're not being compensated for it. What's the incentive to learn your trade, to learn your business, if nobody's going to pay you right anyway? And what's the incentive to learn the ins and outs of your trade if the app is going to do all the work for you? You know what I mean? And so, I can tell you one thing. We've reached peak stupidity. I don't think it can get any dumber. If it gets any dumber, we're going to be in Idiocracy. You ever seen that movie? It's pretty funny. And what's amazing is it's very, it reminds me a lot of the world we live in. The funniest scene in Idiocracy, if you haven't seen the movie, you really need to see it. It's one of the few movies that really makes me laugh. Because the funniest part is, so in the movie, he ends up traveling into the future somehow. I forget how. But in the future, everyone's just super dumb. And so, everything's basically, the corporations rule over everyone, and everyone is just dumb as fuck. No one knows what's going on or anything. Everyone is clueless. And so the Gatorade Corporation, which is called Brondo in the movie, they've managed to trick everyone into thinking that the plants need Brondo to grow because it's better than water, because it has electrolytes. No one even knows what electrolytes are. They just know that it's good. And so all the crops are dying, but no one can figure out why. And so the dude from the past comes to the realization it's because you're watering your crops with Brondo and not water. And so when he's trying to explain it to them, and I swear to God, I've had these arguments with people where he's trying to explain to them that Brondo is killing the plants. You got to use water, and they're like, water, like out of the toilet. He's like, well, yeah, water. They're like, well, I ain't never seen no plants growing in the toilet. Like, they're so beyond stupid that they can't grasp, And so they're like, but Brondo's got electrolytes. Like, they don't fucking get it. And this is the world we live in. You ever try to argue politics with a brainwashed fucking idiot? It's the same shit. They're like, water? I ain't never seen no plants growing in the toilet. It's like, what do you suppose? Like, how do you explain things to someone who's that fucking dumb? They're not just dumb. Their brain's been warped. It's been shifted to where logic doesn't matter because they believe what they believe, and no amount of logic, facts, or intelligence, you can't change it. You know what I'm saying? And so this is why I try to stay out of the whole politics thing nowadays, because I get too frustrated. Like, if I'm talking to someone and I can't make them understand the simplest thing, I don't have the patience for it. I start to want to insult them. I want to grab them and shake them. You know what I mean? But like, I try to avoid it because like, I've come to the realization that I could be as calm and collected and patient and explain. I could draw them a diagram. I could point everything out, and cool as a fan, not losing my cool. And they still won't get it because they have this, what's been planted in their brains to believe is they're going to find a way to believe it. They're going to work their way around the logic and the facts. They're going to, here's a website that says that I'm right. And yeah, you can find a website that says any fucking thing. You know what I mean? It's like, what's that, Snopes? The fact-checking thing, which basically, it's so skewed to the left that to any sane, logical person, it's obvious. You know what I mean? But to these people who need their bullshit justified, it's not obvious. They can't see through it. This is a fact-checking site, and this is the fact that they said, so, you know what I mean? Even though it's obviously skewed and warped to push a certain political narrative, they don't see that. And the reason they don't see it is because they don't want to see it. Because they've been socially engineered and brainwashed and trained to see the world a certain way. And so that's the way they see it, and that's that. You know what I mean? Look at every modern Western society. Has it ever occurred to you? Look at the size of Africa. It's huge. It's the biggest continent on Earth. What logical reason can anyone come up with to send hundreds of thousands of people from the biggest continent on Earth, the biggest landmass we have? You're sending hundreds of thousands of people from there to Ireland, one of the smallest land masses on Earth. Where's the logic? Do you think there's more resources in Ireland than there is in fucking Africa? You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of, because it blows my mind when I see people talking shit to Conor McGregor, who is trying to put a stop to this insanity. Ireland is not America. It's small. And all these Irish people insult the guy and talk shit to him. I think to myself, like, do these people deserve freedom? Do they deserve resources? In Ireland, the Irish people can't get houses. All the houses are being bought by foreigners. And these people who are being screwed out of a living and a home and a family, they're talking shit to Conor McGregor instead of the people who did this to him. And they think it makes sense to fill their country with Africans who are coming from the biggest, most resource-filled continent on Earth. They're doing nothing with it because they want to go to Ireland, and where they don't have to do anything with anything because everything is handed to them. That's step number one. Once they get you there and you're hooked, they're going to cut all that off and they're going to turn you into a wage slave. And you're going to get screwed out of everything, just like the native Irish people are being screwed out of everything. And so the one guy who's standing up for the people, they insult him. They talk shit to him. Oh, he's a drunk, he's a cokehead, this and that. This guy's been yelling out here all day. Let's see what, they got us all out of our minds. You know what I mean? I realized that the main reason I used to be so angry was poverty. When you're really poor, like I was, the slightest thing will set you off. I used to drive around in a rage, mainly because I was afraid of losing my car. I can analyze it now because I'm in a different place in life, and I can figure out why I was the way I was. And so when you're dirt poor and the slightest little hiccup happens with your car that you can't afford to fix, you're angry. Whether you realize it or not, there's this underlying, well, I can't say angry because some people, different people deal with fear different ways. I get angry, some people get sad, some people are just scared out of their wits and submissive, Let's see what he's yelling about. Can y'all hear him? He's yelling at someone about something. This video is getting long. Anyways, hopefully this makes sense. I should explain why I didn't put a video up this week. It's because I had some car issues, and I go to the mechanic. Well, maybe I'll explain it in the next video because it's an interesting story in and of itself, where another fucking trash mechanic had to steal a little money out of me. They can't help themselves. They're like a kid in a fucking candy store with no owner there. They gotta steal a little something. They can't help themselves. They got us all brainwashed and socially engineered. We're stealing crumbs from each other while they fucking steal the whole cake out from under your dumbass face. Anyways, and then they're stealing money from me. Anyways, I guess that's the end of this video. Because I passed the half-hour mark. I'm not trying to make videos longer than a half hour. Anyways, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the channel members. And thanks for the Patreons especially. And, I guess that's the end of this one. Hopefully this makes sense. I'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good one.